Ripple Effect podcast. Today, we're pretty excited to have somebody I'm a huge fan of. He has the CorbettReport.com website. It's an alternative news website. You can hit up on all the topics that I guess won't get hit on mainstream media most of the time, and stuff that is unbiased, and you don't have to worry about sponsors telling him to walk a line and not to hit on certain topics. So with us today is James Corbett. He's definitely check out his website, check out his YouTube channel. He does podcasts. He writes for, I believe, you write for Sibel Edmonds sometimes. I know you do some work with her on Bowling Frog Post, and he's just a great place to get some information, some news, and the best part, I believe you're all funded by fans, right? Basically, you make, and that's we've talked about this before. Oh, by the way, this is again my co-host Dave Kornacki,
silent partner here,
and it's amazing that we've gone to a point with technology and stuff that people like you can make a living doing something like we're doing. I'm a big fan of your story because it kind of is, I think like what the American dream has become, the ability to start from, being into researching and this and that, and next thing you know, you can make a living off it. And now you don't need, I also do a music project, which is the intro song and some of the other stuff. And I started doing that and doing the podcast. And the beautiful thing about all the projects is the fact that you basically don't need any corporate contracts. You don't need, you can kind of put things out on your own. And so that's awesome. He's also really well known for his 9/11 conspiracy theory video, which has gotten tons and millions of hits, and basically he just breaks down the whole 9/11 events into like under 5 minutes. It's like 4 minutes and 58 seconds or whatever it is, and basically just, if anybody hasn't seen it yet, definitely check it out. It's basically just a 5-minute video going from every piece of information you can think of, and just from that video, you'll probably end up searching and Googling about a billion other things. Just it's a good stepping stone into the events and all the missing links and missing pieces. And so what's up, James? So you living in Japan? You're I believe you're a Canadian, born in Canada, and yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I'm Canadian. Well, thank you for the introduction. Thank you for having me on, first of all. And you're right. I mean, I am so, trust me, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't realize how blessed I am to be able to do this for a living. A job that I literally couldn't have even conceived of existing more than a decade ago. I'm suddenly here in the midst of it. And really, the only difference, I think, between my former self and the self of now is that one day I woke up and I decided I could do something about it and I could start spreading this information to others. So I started a website, and it was the furthest thing from my mind that website would ever become my main way of making a living. But here I am. So I am absolutely incredibly blessed to be able to do this and to do it without having to accept advertising and sponsorship, which is important to me. I've had deals offered to me from behind the scenes of people wanting to advertise on my website, and I've never accepted it, and I never plan on doing so because I just don't want to build that model. I really do think that the alt media has a chance to build up an alternative model that will work, that shows that when people genuinely desire and like a subject and what people talk about, they will support it. So I guess I'm going to be the canary in the coal mine on that theory, and if I end up dead, everyone else can run for the hills, I guess. But
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't that what they say about whistleblowers? Like, definitely, if you don't want to wind up dead, speak out and let everybody know who you are and what your story is, and that's probably the best safety or means for safety and then to stay alive. Kind of, it just kind of let everybody know, because you always hear those stories about those whistleblowers that don't, they don't come out and tell you, or they just are anonymous, and then they don't say who they are. Next thing you know, they wind up dead, and you don't know why. So that probably is.
That's exactly it. And for people who don't know, I do a podcast series. So one of the series on my podcast is called Requiem for the Suicided, where I go over some of the whistleblowers in the past who have been suicided, i.e., killed, but made to look like a suicide over and over and over again, from Denny Castellero to the DC Madam to I forget the name, Robert Kelly,
Yeah.
David Kelly, sorry. All of these people, and all of them have that in common. They've all got pieces of information that they've held back. They've announced, "Oh, I'm working on this. I'm about to break this case," and suddenly they end up dead. So yes, absolutely. For any whistleblowers in the audience, my number one piece of advice would be to go as public as you can with as much information as you can, as quickly as you can, because anything that you hold back is a very dangerous thing to do, which is why I don't have any information from behind the scenes that I don't share with the audience. I'm 100% open because I don't want to deal with that, and I don't want to have any, big secrets or things that I'm working on that I'm going to announce to people and then suddenly end up, dead in the gutter somewhere.
Is that a fear you ever have of like just being on the radar of the NSA or something like that, and just worried about something possibly happening to you or your family, or just being tapped and being watched or listened to? I mean, obviously, we all know now that we're all being watched and listened to. Unfortunately, it's just way easier to just tape and record everything than it is to, just pick certain pieces. So now they have these, these databases. We're just constantly storing everything. And I get in these debates with people about, oh, well, and I'm sure you have the same conversations, like, well, if you don't have anything to hide, then, what are you afraid of? And it's just like, because it's online and it's the internet, I think people, they're disconnected from it. Like I always use the example, well, what if you end up having somebody go through your mail, open your mail, look through all your mail, and then reseal it and then put it back in your mailbox? And they're like, oh, I'd be outraged. I'm like, well, it's the same thing. Anything that's online is also, it's the same stuff you get on mail. People pay their bills on mail. They're, things that you order, medicines, vitamins, whatever. And so the idea of sacrificing, like that famous quote, sacrificing freedom for security, it's one of those things where just because you're not doing anything wrong doesn't mean you should just be able to be completely searched and seized and just wiretapped and all this stuff. And because then where does it end? It just, dictatorships do the same thing. It's just constantly, you take people's weapons away, you take people's rights away, and then you keep telling them it's for their own good. And my fear is that 9/11 was a huge deal. And it's funny because this last anniversary of 9/11 was it didn't get as much conversation as I expected it to. And there still was an alternative media, but they weren't even like showing videos of 9/11 on like CNN and Fox News like they usually did. And I feel like they're just like, it's the past and they're moving on. And it's hard for me to not look at that event and think that the whole world changed afterwards, because you look at after 9/11, basically, we lost our freedoms. You had the Patriot Act, you had Obama, the NDAA Act, and you had all these things that happened, and it was all because of this boogeyman called a terrorist, which is even better than a boogeyman that's called the Soviet Union or something else, because a terrorist, you never win that battle. There's not a country you fight against and then you win. It's just a boogeyman that just never goes away. So we can constantly start taking away people's freedoms. We can constantly, say it's for the better of the country, and it's never ending. And we can also invade countries. You look like the Syria thing, and just the whole idea that we're going in there because of chemical weapons, but yet nobody knows why. Look how fast that ended. The second that that's a perfect example. We talked about this on our last episode, how a lot of people are like, well, what's the point of even trying to do anything? It's like, it's pointless. It's like, well, every great revolution, every great change in the world start off with a couple people having a conversation saying, that's not right. This doesn't seem right. I mean, slavery was the same way, women's rights. It was a group of people who said, even though we're conditioned to believe this is the norm, something's not right, and then that provokes more conversation. And the name of this podcast is called Ripple Effect Podcast because of my strong feelings towards the belief that we can cause a ripple effect. I mean, you have exposed me personally to so many stories and so many great videos and podcasts and interviews with great people, and then I learn about other people's podcasts, and it just becomes a ripple effect. And then you're molding my opinion and my perspective on things, and then I share, because I'm excited to share this information with other people. And then all of a sudden, we're going out last night, and I had a couple friends over, and I remember just it's one of your podcasts recently, the Noam Chomsky podcast, about Noam Chomsky and the Gatekeeper, and I was just kind of bouncing ideas about Noam Chomsky with some friends, and all of a sudden, they're like, "Who's Noam Chomsky?" And next thing you know, we're talking about that, and it becomes this ripple effect. So the idea that you can't change things, you might not be able to make a big change all at once, but I don't think you can ever understate how important it is to even create a small change and how it can become a roller coaster of and become something bigger. And that's why it's awesome that that people like you are doing this, and just constantly just more people. It seems like podcasting is like the next wave of media and entertainment, and so it's amazing. And I want to ask, is there any documentary or any video or any author, anything that really like was the one video or documentary or author that like all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, I never looked at things like this, or like that really like made you more aware, or like, I guess for lack of a better term, like created the awakening, I guess, anything that really like was a huge inspiration?
Yes, there was. Before I get into that, though, I should just comment on what you said there about the ripple effect and the way that this media starts to spread out and affect people in other ways. I think that is one of the things that the system that exists right now is truly afraid of, and you see that reflected in the comments of people like Zbigniew Brzezinski, who has gone out and talked about the global political awakening and how people can't be controlled in the ways that they used to be. And this is something that I think that the powers that shouldn't be really are fretting about these days, which is why I think it's so important what you mentioned earlier with regards to whether or not I feel afraid that I'm going to be killed or put on some list or whatever because of this information. My answer is no, and that's because that's precisely why I am doing the Corbett Report, precisely why I started the website. And it was something that I heard from people over and over and over when I first started the website, and I was telling my friends here in Japan about it, or my friends back in Canada. The first thing they would say, "Aren't you afraid you're going to be put on some kind of list?" And my response is and has always been, well, that's exactly why I'm doing this. I don't want to live in a society where I have to be afraid of being put on a list because I'm speaking out about things that I'm upset about. We're not the criminals, so we shouldn't be the ones that are peering over our shoulder, worrying about everything that we put online. But that's, of course, exactly the function of the panopticon system, and that's exactly what this NSA spying is all about. On the note of nothing to hide, nothing to fear, I did do a video specifically talking about that and highlighted some of the work of my fellow Canadian Dan Dick, Suppressor Truth. He did this brilliant video where he was asking people, well, you have nothing to hide, then can you tell me your name? Can you tell me what city you're from? Can you tell me your home address? Can you tell me your bank account number? And of course, eventually people stop cooperating with him and basically walk away. And it's, well, you have nothing to hide. You have nothing to fear. There are other points to make on that topic, but I thought that was a good video. And speaking of video, anyone who's watching the video, no, I'm not an NSA employee. This is an NSA parody shirt from libertymaniacs.com. NSA, they're peeping while you're sleeping. The only government agency that listens to you. But anyway, on the note of DVDs or videos or whatever that help to wake me up or spur me along, it was just a combination of a lot of different 9/11 truth type videos and things that really started to get me into this. And from that, I started branching out into other parts of this research, and it was really when I came across the Money Masters that the penny dropped for me, and I started to realize, oh, there's a financial aspect to this, and that in fact the entire financial paradigm, i.e. the dollar and what defines our money, is controlled by an extremely small few private interests. And once I really understood how that system really functions and the incredible power of being able to control the money supply, that's when I think the penny really finally dropped for me. So the Money Masters was absolutely instrumental for that and me for me.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I've always been kind of, as a young kid, I was always kind of intrigued with politics and stuff. But as I got older and I got more into documentaries, and there's something about documentaries. Anybody who knows me knows I'm an addict with documentaries. And I think once you really get into them, it's harder to ignore the fact that why watch a Denzel movie that has this great storyline and about corruption and conspiracy when you can watch a documentary that highlights real corruption, real conspiracy with real people and real events. And once you start doing that, it's almost, for me at least, it was like no turning back. I'm like, I can't spend 2 hours of my life watching a movie that is made up and whatever when I could watch a documentary that I could learn something and this is real. And it almost and then when you get that information, you're so inspired or angry, especially and from my point of view, like I get angry sometimes when I watch some of the stuff. You know, you're like, how can this be happening, and why isn't anybody paying attention to this? And again, I've seen interviews with you and your podcast and your show, and you've talked a lot about how it seems like it's a bigger design. Like it seems like we I forget who said the quote. I want to give credit to where it's due, but somebody said that we spend most of our lives working a job we hate to buy shit we don't need. And I almost feel like that cycle was designed. I mean, and it goes back to that's why I've talked to my buddy Dave about Edward Bernays, and I kept telling him, like, you have to research this guy. I'm like, he is one of the like biggest influences on basically the way this world is designed right now, PR, propaganda, and nobody knows who the hell he is. And when you start doing your research on how he basically came up with the term public relations and how he's been such an influence, to think that the government, CIA, and everybody else isn't still using those tactics today is insane. And to think that they're not just feeding us the same. I mean, we're conditioned to not question certain things. And like 9/11, the Noam Chomsky thing was really interesting because I was a fan of his because of the fact that he does put a lot of emphasis on Edward Bernays, and I feel like that's great because he's obviously a respected professor, and it might expose some information to some people who wouldn't normally go looking for that information. So that was important. But it is funny how certain people like him, it's like they will believe things like Edward Bernays' his influence on policy and how they use his ideas to manipulate the public. But yet, why the hell is that the fact that 9/11 could possibly have more to what happened than meets the eye? Why is that so far fetched? Like it's like it almost seems like it's a subject they don't want to touch, and they I know this guy, and it's funny because I almost feel like it's the way we're taught to look at things because I know somebody who was a Vietnam vet, and we talked about the Gulf of Tonkin. He believed that that was a false flag. Believed in the Northwoods Project, believed in all these things. But then once we got to, that JFK was possibly, it wasn't Oswald that shot him. So he believed in all these things. Then once I talked about 9/11, he looked at me like I was insane. He's like, "Oh, you're fucking crazy. What are you thinking?" It's like, "You're really gonna say that the government let that happen, or that Bush had some hand in it?" And I'm just like, "Do you not see how history repeats? Like, why is this a topic, the one topic that it can't be?" And it's almost like because the other events were so long ago that you're detached from it, so you don't see the victims, you don't see. And I think there's something about human nature that we want to find the good in people, and we don't want to believe that something that was so horrific was let happen. And I think it's hard for people to believe that, or to want to believe that, so that's why the 9/11 thing is such a for me an interesting topic because till even today, if I share videos on Twitter or YouTube or whatever, or I mean Facebook about 9/11, it's like the one topic that I will get people consistently getting mad about the fact that I'm sharing anything that doesn't go along with the official story. And it's just like, do your research. The beautiful thing about technology, it takes 2 seconds to start Googling things. And in no time, you can find all this information. And you know what it is too? The Bush Dick Cheney thing, it's like people are just like, oh, that's